So the session today is going to be a focus on monitoring and evaluation. Okay. We are going to explore and unpick the processes involved in monitoring and evaluation, the impact that monitoring and evaluation can have, and how you can use monitoring and evaluation to truly demonstrate the success of your organisations and the projects and programmes that you're involved in. The session is entitled Hope, Not an Effective Strategy to Plan Your Future. The reason for that title will become apparent as we move through the session and explore some of the issues, the challenges and the opportunities that monitoring and evaluation presents. So, starting point, we have to recognise that sport has tremendous power. Okay, sport as an activity has been recognised by some famous individuals and also important individuals in terms of its potential to engage, motivate, inspire young people and in some cases change lives. Okay, organisations such as the United Nations have recognised the power of sport. You know, they've released statements that have kind of said that sport can be is a great enabler to overcome cultural division, to bring communities together, and also a huge driver for economic benefits. So sport as an industry has, you know, really true potential to change the lives of individuals and the communities in which it operates. Okay, so that is kind of a starting point that we need to hold in the back of our mind. And often those who work in sport are evangelical about the potential of the sector. Okay, we are absolutely clear of the power of sport and what sport can do for young people and the communities in which it operates. Okay, the challenge arises in that evangelical aspiration is often not backed up with evidence, okay, which then brings into question the actuality of these evangelical aspirations. Okay, so collecting effective evidence to truly demonstrate that impact is what we're going to explore today. We need to remove the evangelical aspirational element and turn it into hard evidence, factual, robust information that demonstrates the impact that sport development can have and sport development can have. What we also need to recognise is that if we are going to make true substantive change, that we can't keep doing the same things that we have done before. Okay, change is not an easy process to go through, but if we want a different outcome, we have to do things differently. And as the quote up there says, you know, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting something different is the definition of insanity. Okay, so if we want to truly get buy-in from our partners, our funders, our stakeholders, if we really want people to understand the success that we've had, we've got to do something different beyond just that evangelical aspirational evidence base that we currently have. It has to be much more substantive. And that's what we're going to explore over the next few minutes within the presentation. It's worth having a bit of a sporting reality check to a certain extent, though, because whenever you talk about monitoring and evaluation, those that work in the industry, those that work in the sector, are kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. Okay, a rock and a hard place. They are stuck between the thought that actually, is this process something that is really quite helpful? Is this process something that could be a really useful tool to demonstrate our success, to demonstrate our outcome, and to show the good work that we are doing? Or actually, is it something that is a complete bureaucratic nuisance that's going to get in the way of our day job? Okay, it's this point that we need to overcome. Okay, we need to demonstrate, and we'll try to demonstrate in the next sort of 10 minutes of this session, that monitoring and evaluation doesn't have to be a bureaucratic nuisance. Monitoring and evaluation is something that can be integrated into your everyday work. Okay, monitoring and evaluation can be something that can be done seamlessly when you are working with young people. Okay, it doesn't have to be procedural. It doesn't have to be something that gets in the way. It is something that just happens as part of the day job. So let's just have a think about some questions we need to ask that relate to monitoring and evaluation. There's essentially three questions that we need to unpick and consider in terms of completing monitoring and evaluation. Question number one, and this is the key starting point for any kind of piece of work, irrespective of whether you're going to monitor it or not, but any piece of work, you need to be completely clear as to whether you know what you're aiming to achieve in the first place. Okay, any project, any program that is being delivered, it really needs that kind of clarity of purpose. If you don't know what you are trying to achieve, you will not be able to monitor, evaluate and demonstrate any kind of impact of outcome, any kind of success, any kind of areas of development if you aren't clear about what it exactly is you are looking to do in the first place. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So number one, clarity of purpose, being clear about what your project or program is aiming to achieve. The second thing that you need to think about is the evidence that you need to collect. Okay, so being creative and innovative about the process that you need to go through to collect information on your project or program. Okay, what are the key documents, the key pieces of information that you need to collect from participants or stakeholders or parents or whoever it might be, in terms of collecting that data to paint that picture of what your project is doing. So you have to be completely clear about understanding the evidence that is required. And then the third thing, having collected all your evidence and information, you need to be focused on how you're going to present that information to the various audiences that need to hear it. Okay, so it needs to be a case of, yes, collect the information, but having got the information, turn that information into something that is usable and workable to present to stakeholders, partners, funders, whoever it is that you want to present that information to, and we'll explore that as well. So they are the three kind of things that we need to focus on. Clarity of purpose, collecting the evidence, and then presenting that information in a meaningful way. So let's take the first one to begin with. First of all, as we have said, the clarity of focus is absolutely key. Okay, as an organisation, as a project or as a programme, you need to be completely clear as to why you exist. Okay, in terms of making that happen, in terms of getting to the point of doing that, there's kind of two or three things that need to be considered. Thing number one is in developing this, in developing your aims, in developing your objectives, in developing your clarity of purpose and focus, you really want to do that in partnership with stakeholders. Okay, you really want to work with other organisations that have an interest and a role in the work that you are doing to develop some aims and objectives. Okay, having that key stakeholder engagement from the outset will give true meaning to your work. Okay, so work with your funders, work with your partners, work with your deliverers to develop your clarity of focus as a partnership. Okay, and to do that, there's two or three key things. Thing number one is make sure that you are completely clear about your broad aim. Okay, what is it you're aiming to achieve? What is the outcome that you are looking to cement from the piece of work that you are doing? Okay, is it about health? Is it about inclusion? Is it about just the power of sport alone? Okay, but be completely clear about what your outcome is and what it is you are looking to achieve. And when you have got that overarching broad outcome, or your overarching aim, you need to start to develop some specific objectives that will guide your work. Okay, and in terms of those objectives, we would absolutely advocate that those objectives are SMART. Okay, that those objectives are specific, they are measurable, they're achievable, they're realistic, and they are based around a time frame. Okay, so the SMART principle is absolutely crucial. So be quite clear as to what it is you are trying to achieve in terms of your objectives. Because if you've got that clarity of focus, if you've got that clear aim, if you've got those specific objectives, you have then got something to measure against. Okay, so absolutely, this is the key starting point, clarity of focus. No clarity of focus, you don't know whether you've been a success or not. Okay, no clarity of focus, you cannot demonstrate any kind of impact if you don't know what you were trying to achieve in the first place. Okay, so make sure you have that clarity of focus. Make sure you are clear about your broad outcome. Sure you are absolutely, engaged in terms of what your objectives for your project or your program is, and work with others to get to that point. So that's the first thing. when your project and program is then running, okay, when the activity is going on, you need to start to consider how you collect the evidence to demonstrate the impact of your work. Okay, and essentially, there are two things that you can do to collect that evidence base. There is qualitative research, qualitative collection of data to support your case, and there is quantitative data to collect evidence that you can collect to make your case. Okay, the difference being quantitative focuses very much on numbers, and we'll explore that a little bit in a minute. Qualitative is much more about feelings, beliefs, values, activities that have an impact on the person as opposed to a numerical impact of how many young people turned up. Okay, so you've got two kind of angles to collect your evidence from, the qualitative point of view and the quantitative point of view, and we'll explore these in a bit more detail. In terms of you collecting your evidence, and this comes back to the point that we made a few slides ago, is that none of this should be a hindrance. Okay, the collection of the evidence, the collection of the information should be an ongoing, almost daily activity that the workers on projects or the coaches on projects do as part of their everyday activity. Okay, so in terms of collecting the information required, we would absolutely advocate to be creative and innovative in the way that you do that. Okay, embed it into your everyday job. Use opportunities when you are working with young people to collect information along the way. Okay, think about integrating it into your daily work. Don't see it as an added extra, because if you see it as an added extra, we then get into the realms of monitoring and evaluation being a hindrance and not a help. Okay, it has to be part of your day job, something that you see value to, something that you integrate into the everyday activity of your work. Okay, now how do you do that? Here's some thoughts. Okay, if we go back to the point about qualitative versus quantitative, there's lots of different ways to collect data. Okay, there are some traditional ways that are highlighted in the red hexagons that you can utilise. You can ask questions through questionnaires. Okay, you can do interviews with young people. Okay, you can monitor attendance. You can track the budget. Okay, you can look at where young people come in and where they go out and how they've progressed and all these kind of things. They are the traditional ways to collect information. Okay, you can focus more on numbers, i.e. how many young people attended. Or you can focus more on qualitative impact. What are you observing about the changes in young people? Okay, what do young people tell you in terms of having discussions with them about how they feel before and after, and all these kinds of things. So you can shape your data collection around qualitative and quantitative, whether you want to focus on numbers or whether you want to focus on the human stories. As I said, the red hexagons are the traditional ways of collecting information evidence. What we would say in terms of innovation and creativity is if you are working with young people, they are the generation of technology. Okay, utilise the technology that is out there to engage with these young people, to collect your evidence and build your case and tell your story. Okay, use things like Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Collect information in that way. If you're running a project, create a Facebook page for the project. Encourage the young people to input information into it. Work with them around the use of that Facebook page so you can start to collect data on a regular basis about what you're doing in terms of your activities. Okay, create an Instagram account for the project. Take pictures, upload them, have a two-way communication where you are continually collecting data that demonstrates your impact and demonstrates the activity that you're doing and demonstrates the success you're having. Okay, but always keep in the back of your mind that there's two angles to this. Number one, collecting the stories, the information, the feelings, the beliefs, the changes that you make, the qualitative information versus some of the quantitative stuff around attendance, numbers, hard kind of data. Okay, and both of those pieces of information are relevant because you take both of those pieces of information and you mould them into something that you want to present back to different audiences that you're targeting. Okay, so be innovative, be creative, use the technologies and think about the difference between the quantitative and the qualitative approach in terms of collecting information and evidence. So once you have all this data, you have to think about how you present it. Okay, and again, there are lots and lots of different ways to present that information. You can take that information and you can turn it into written reports. You can take the quantitative information and the qualitative information and wrap it up into something that is a document that you present back to stakeholders, funders, and whoever else you want to engage with in the process. You can bring things to life through things such as case studies and video diaries or films. Okay, that's, taking the qualitative information, taking the stories that you've collected and packaging them up in a way that stakeholders and partners can receive them to see the impact that you've made in terms of your work. Think about how you present the information interestingly. Go beyond words. Think about the use of infographics, charts, diagrams, tables to bring to life some of the work that you've been doing. Okay, and also think about the way to verbally present it. Okay, do you want to get stakeholders or partners into your activities and your programs? Show them what's going on, talk to them about it, present what's happening in terms of your work to showcase the activity that you're doing. All of this is important in terms of, providing justification and evidence of the success that you have within your projects and programs. Okay. What you need to make sure is that those people who you're involved with, your stakeholders, your partners, the organisations that you work with, truly understand the success that you have, the impact that you're having with your projects. Okay, you do not want to leave that understanding to hope. Okay, you want to make completely clear to partners, stakeholders and organisations the success of your work. Okay, if you don't do that, and if you hope that people will understand how good you are, you're therefore kind of hoping that they're going to continue to fund your projects. And if you're hoping that they're going to continue to fund your projects, what you're kind of hoping is that you're going to still be in a job in 6 months, 9 months, 12 months' time and doing the thing that you love doing at the moment. You don't want to leave that to hope. You need to create a more effective strategy than hope. And that effective strategy is quality monitoring and evaluation. That effective strategy is collecting pieces of evidence from your participants, from the young people, building up the evidence base of all the good work that you're doing, packaging it up and presenting it to the relevant organisations so they truly understand how good you are at what you do. It's not a strategy that you want to rely on if you want any kind of success in terms of developing an impact approach for sport development. Okay, hope is a very poor strategy for doing that. Thank you very much.